The day the music died. The fateful day when the sky fell silent for Buddy Holly and fellow stars in a devastating airplane crash. On February 3, 1959, a deadly plane crash robbed rock and roll of three of its jewels: Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper, aka J.P. Richardson, along with the pilot Roger Peterson. What were the mysterious circumstances surrounding Buddy Holly's fatal plane crash? Join us as we delve into the events that tragically claimed the lives of iconic rock and roll icons. In the late 1950s, a musical revolution was brewing, and its epicenter was the electrifying world of rock and roll. As post-war America experienced a cultural shift, a new sound emerged that would shape the future of music and captivate the hearts of millions. This was an era of rebellion, freedom, and youthful exuberance, and the soundtrack was undeniably rock and roll. With the birth of this genre, artists were breaking away from traditional norms, infusing rhythm and blues with a newfound energy that resonated with the youth. Electric guitars wailed, rhythm sections pulsated, and lyrics delved into themes of love, rebellion, and the pursuit of freedom. This was the dawn of a musical movement that transcended generations. Amidst the rising tide of rock and roll, one name stood out: Buddy Holly. Born Charles Hardin Holly in Lubbock, Texas, on September 7, 1936, he was affectionately nicknamed Buddy by his mother. Buddy Holly quickly became a symbol of the changing times. His distinctive voice, catchy melodies, and skillful guitar playing set him apart in a crowded musical landscape. Buddy Holly's rise to prominence was meteoric. Alongside his band, the Crickets, he pioneered the use of two guitars, bass, and drums as the standard rock and roll lineup. Hits like Peggy Sue, That'll Be the Day, and Oh Boy dominated the airwaves, making Buddy Holly a household name. But just as Buddy Holly was reaching the pinnacle of his career, tragedy struck, casting a shadow over the world of rock and roll that lingers to this day. Buddy Holly was amid a grueling tour known as the Winter Dance Party. This tour, which included fellow musicians Ritchie Valens, J.P. the Big Bopper, Richardson, Dion and the Belmonts, and Frankie Sardo, earned a reputation among the artists as the Tour from Hell. Battling freezing temperatures as low as -35 degrees Fahrenheit, they traveled hundreds of miles each day, managing their equipment. The harsh conditions took a toll. One performer was hospitalized for frostbite, and many others fell ill with the flu. As the tour pressed on, Holly, in a less-than-ideal state of mind, led his fellow musicians to a concert in Clear Lake, Iowa, on February 2nd, unaware that it would mark his final performance. After the show, Holly, wanting to escape the bitter cold, made a decision that would change the course of history, opting to charter a private plane for himself and some band members to reach their next destination in Fargo, North Dakota. He intended to bring Waylon Jennings and Tommy Allsup on the three-passenger aircraft. However, a twist of fate intervened when Ritchie Valens challenged Allsup to a coin toss for a seat on the flight, a seat Valens ultimately won. Jennings relinquished his seat to the unwell Richardson, who sought medical attention before their next show. Upon learning about the seat changes, Holly allegedly made a casual remark to Jennings saying, "Well, I hope your old bus freezes up." In a response that would haunt Jennings, he replied, "Well, I hope your old plane crashes." The ill-fated flight took off at 12:55 a.m. on February 3rd, only to crash into a cornfield approximately 5 minutes later. The tragedy claimed the lives of Buddy Holly at 22, Ritchie Valens at 17, and J.P. Richardson at 28. Just 17 years old at the time of the crash, Ritchie Valens was a rising star known for his youthful energy and the hit song La Bamba. Valens, with his charismatic stage presence and fusion of rock and Latin music, was one of the youngest and most promising talents of his generation. J.P. the Big Bopper. Richardson, Giles Perry Richardson Jr., a 28-year-old singer, songwriter, and disc jockey, was a larger-than-life personality in the music industry. Famous for his rockabilly hit Chantilly Lace, Richardson's dynamic stage presence and deep voice made him a memorable figure during the early years of rock and roll. Buddy Holly's journey into the world of music began at an early age, and by the time he reached 16, he had already become a musical sensation. With three siblings, Larry, Travis, and Patricia Liu, Buddy's love for music blossomed in his early years. Initially experimenting with piano and violin, he found his true passion when his brothers introduced him to the beauty of the guitar. A 1949 home recording showcased Buddy's skilled singing voice in the song My Two-Timing Woman. Buddy's parents, Lawrence Holly and Ella Pauline Drake, tailors by trade, wholeheartedly supported his burgeoning musical talents. They not only helped generate song ideas, but also defended teenagers who loved rock and roll in a letter to the LC newspaper, countering conservative criticism. As Buddy's passion for music intensified, he faced a pivotal choice between pursuing a career in music or joining his brothers in the tile business. Buddy chose the former, solidifying his commitment to a path that echoed his heart, mind, and soul. Buddy's trajectory took a transformative turn in 1955 when Elvis Presley's popularity soared. Influenced by Elvis's revolutionary approach to music, blending country, rhythm and blues, and rock and roll, Buddy made a swift transition from country to rock and roll. His band, frequently performing as an opening act for well-known national artists in LEC, Texas, caught the attention of Dave Stone, the manager of radio station KDEV. Dave Stone, also known as David Papey. Dave Stone Pinkston played a pivotal role in Buddy's early career. Besides being a radio host, Stone's connections and support secured Buddy's first record contracts, expanding his reach to a broader audience. In February 1956, a demo tape of Buddy's music sent to Decca Records marked a turning point. His first record deal was signed, but a clerical error in the contract misspelled Holly's last name as Holly instead of Holly. From that moment forward, Buddy became known as Buddy Holly, setting the stage for his remarkable journey in the world of rock and roll. In early 1956, Buddy Holly and his band recorded demos and singles in Nashville under the name Buddy Holly and the Three Tunes. Later, the group underwent a composition change and was renamed The Crickets. In the spring of 1957, the Crickets released That'll Be the Day, a monumental breakthrough hit that dominated the charts in the United Kingdom for 3 weeks. The success continued into 1958, with no fewer than 7 of the band's singles reaching the top 40 charts. However, in 1958, Buddy made a crucial decision to bid farewell to his band life and focus on a solo career. Concurrently, he proposed to his girlfriend, Maria Elena Santiago, on their very first date. Their whirlwind romance led to marriage just 2 months later, and after tying the knot, they relocated to New York to embark on a new life together. In 1959, Buddy received an invitation to tour the Midwest as part of the Winter Dance Party. The decision to join the tour and leave his life in New York behind wasn't pre-planned. Instead, financial challenges resulting from the breakup of his former band prompted Buddy to agree to the tour. This tour brought together several artists, including Dion and the Belmonts, Ritchie Valens, the Big Bopper, and Frankie Sardo. For the Winter Dance Party tour, Buddy assembled a band consisting of Waylon Jennings, Tommy Allsup, and Carl Bunch. The tour kicked off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on January 23, 1959. Unfortunately, the tour faced logistical challenges due to insufficient planning regarding distances between locations, compounded by heating failures in the tour buses during the cold winter. The 4-seat Beechcraft Bonanza was reserved for Waylon Jennings, Tommy Allsup, and Buddy Holly, and they planned to fly to their next destination in Moorhead, Minnesota, via Fargo, North Dakota. This decision to fly was made to avoid the exhausting bus trip, wash clothes, and get some rest immediately after the show. Just before midnight, Tommy agreed to flip a coin with Ritchie Valens to determine who would get a seat on the plane. Ritchie won the coin toss, humorously remarking, "That's the first time I've ever won anything in my life." Facing discomfort with the cold and the uncomfortable conditions on the tour bus, the Big Bopper expressed his desire to avoid the bus due to his size and the flu he had caught. Waylon Jennings volunteered his seat to the Big Bopper, an act of kindness that unknowingly spared him from the tragic fate that awaited the flight. In the early evening of February 3, 1959, pilot Roger Peterson obtained the necessary weather information for the flight. Despite a forecast of light snow showers after 2 a.m. due to a cold frontal attack, he was not overly concerned. Passengers, including Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper, boarded the plane after midnight. Roger Peterson was in regular contact with the flight plan and weather through Hubert Dwyer, a licensed commercial pilot and the local operator at Mason City Airport. Initially, everything seemed fine, and the takeoff was made at 0:55 a.m. Hubert observed the plane making a 180-degree left turn, climbing to about 800 feet, and then flying in a northwesterly direction after passing the airfield eastward. However, about 5 minutes after takeoff, and approximately 5 miles from the airport, something unusual occurred. Hubert noticed the plane's taillight gradually descending until it disappeared from view around 1. Roger was supposed to share his flight plan shortly after takeoff, but he hadn't done so. Despite several attempts to contact him, Hubert was unable to reach Roger. The plane had vanished from radar, leaving everyone in the dark about what had transpired. A major search operation was immediately initiated, hoping for the best, but fearing the worst. In the morning, their worst fears were confirmed. After an extensive search, the wreckage was found in an open field around 9:35 a.m. All occupants, including Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, the Big Bopper Richardson, and the pilot Roger Peterson, lost their lives. The field where the plane was found was flat and covered with about 5 inches of snow. The accident occurred in a sparsely inhabited area, resulting in no witnesses. This tragic event became widely known as the day the music died, due to its profound impact on the music scene. Following the accident, the Civil Aeronautics Board launched an investigation. Deposition statements were taken in Mason City, Iowa, on February 18, 1959, and the official investigation report was released on September 23, 1959. The investigation revealed that unfavorable weather conditions significantly contributed to the crash. As the plane taxied onto the runway, there was a sudden and drastic change in local weather conditions compared to earlier reports. The ceiling had dropped by 3,000 feet, visibility was significantly reduced, and light snow had fallen. Despite these adverse conditions, the pilot decided to proceed with takeoff, which proved to be a critical mistake. The investigation concluded that the crash's probable cause was a combination of factors, including the pilot's unwise decision to fly in poor weather conditions, deficiencies in weather briefing, and the pilot's unfamiliarity with the aircraft's specific instruments. Roger Peterson's disorientation due to bad weather, insufficient experience, and lack of qualification to fly in instrument meteorological conditions were highlighted as contributing factors. Despite the findings of the Civil Aeronautics Board, there have been ongoing discussions, evaluations, and calls for a re-examination of the tragic event. Some individuals sought a more comprehensive investigation or a fresh review of the available evidence. J. Richardson, the Big Bopper's son, raised questions about the circumstances of the crash. The Big Bopper's body was found farther away from the crash site than the others, about 15 meters away. Additionally, a .22 caliber pistol belonging to Buddy Holly was discovered near the crash site, sparking rumors and inquiries into the crash's circumstances. In response to these concerns, J. Richardson hired Dr. Bill Bass, a renowned forensic anthropologist and founder of the research facility at the University of Tennessee, known as the Body Farm. Dr. Bass, known for his expertise in forensic anthropology and criminal investigations involving human decomposition, conducted an investigation in 2007, 48 years after the plane crash. Dr. Bass performed an autopsy on the Big Bopper's remains, examining bones and forensic evidence to determine the cause of death and address any questions or theories of foul play. However, he refrained from revealing the specific answers to those questions, stating, "I'm going to show you what I saw, but I'm not going to tell you the answers to those 2 questions." Remarkably, the Big Bopper's body was in relatively good condition after the crash. His haircut remained intact, and his facial features were identifiable. X-rays of his body revealed numerous fractures, from his skull to his legs, indicating severe injuries that would have made seeking help impossible. Dr. Bass's findings confirmed that the Big Bopper had passed away instantly. In 2015, a retired pilot, LJ, attempted to clear the deceased pilot's name by suggesting a fuel system malfunction as a possible cause of the crash. However, authorities chose not to reopen the investigation due to the lack of substantial evidence supporting this claim. The news reached Buddy Holly's family through local news reports, making the situation even more heartbreaking. Holly's wife, Maria Elena, learned about his death on television and later suffered a miscarriage due to the psychological trauma inflicted by the devastating loss, as reported in the podcast. Similarly, Buddy Holly's mother received the heartbreaking news while listening to the radio. The magnitude of this tragedy prompted authorities to establish protocols that required the names of the deceased to be concealed from the public until the families had been notified. On February 7, 1959, Holly's funeral was held at the Tabernacle Church in his hometown of Lubbock, Texas. His body was buried in the town cemetery, and the entire funeral was held in private. His tombstone reads, "In loving memory of our own Buddy Holly." Interestingly, the grave includes the E in the Holly, representing the singer's birth name. Next to these words, there's a guitar engraved. Despite the deep sadness and somber atmosphere following the plane crash, the Winter Dance Party tour pressed on. Waylon Jennings, who had originally been scheduled to be on the ill-fated plane but gave up his seat, stepped into the role of lead singer during the tour. He performed in memory of Buddy Holly, striving to honor his late friend as best he could. Buddy Holly's musical legacy has endured in various ways since his untimely passing. A tape containing 13 new recordings, previously unheard by the public, was discovered in his apartment after the tragic accident. Some of these recordings were subsequently released, and one of the standout songs was a sequel to his hit Peggy Sue, titled Peggy Sue Got Married. This song became a significant contribution to Buddy Holly's discography and added to his lasting impact on the world of music. Buddy Holly's influence extends beyond his own time, and his style has left an indelible mark on pop and rock music. The profound and lasting impact of Buddy Holly's music is evident in the homage paid by numerous renowned artists. Bob Dylan, a Nobel laureate, openly acknowledged Buddy's influence on his music, describing a sense of kinship and resemblance. Other iconic bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Eric Clapton, the Hollies, and Elvis Costello have all cited Buddy Holly as a major inspiration in shaping their musical journeys. The Beatles in particular paid tribute to Holly's legacy, acknowledging how he played a pivotal role in inspiring them to pursue their musical path. Paul McCartney once expressed in an interview the profound influence Buddy Holly had on the Beatles in his music journey, stating, "Buddy Holly was completely different. He was out of Nashville, so that introduced us to the country music scene. I still like Buddy's vocal style and his writing." McCartney emphasized how the Beatles started writing their material, a significant shift in the music industry at the time, and credited Buddy Holly as a major inspiration, saying, "John and I started to write because of Buddy Holly. It was like, wow, he writes and is a musician." Elton John, another legendary musician, openly acknowledged his debt to Buddy Holly, revealing, "I began wearing glasses when I was 13 to copy Buddy Holly. After 18 months, I found I couldn't see without them." Buddy Holly's influence resonates across multiple generations of musicians, fundamentally altering the landscape of the music industry. Despite passing away at the young age of 22, Buddy Holly's impact on the music industry and subsequent generations is immeasurable. The loss of this musical wonder child and pioneer marked a significant moment in music history.